This presentation highlights Meg's History of Graphic Design, Chapter 22, Postmodern Design, Part 5, Vernacular Design. Other original voices explored reinvention of historical models outside of New York. Charles Spencer Anderson and the Duffy Design Group in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Michael Mabry in San Francisco, and Art Chantry in Seattle, just to name a few. Vernacular design is closely related to retro, yet different. Retro paraphrases design works of historical quality. Vernacular paraphrases more commonplace graphic forms such as baseball cards, matchbook covers, and unskilled commercial illustrations. The tacky stuff. Charles Spencer Anderson was born in 1958 and grew up in Boone, Iowa. He began his design career working for the Duffy Design Group out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and became an early practitioner of what is called vernacular design. Charles Spencer Anderson found a kindred spirit in Joe Duffy in an interest in old matchbooks, newspaper clip art from the 1940s, and old graphics that were mostly found in the 40s and 50-year-old print shops of small towns across the Midwest. Charles Spencer Anderson reinvented these past forms, combined them, and applied them with a contemporary approach to grocery store packaging, logos, book covers, ads, and paper company sample books. The power of this style of graphic design was demonstrated by the Classico spaghetti sauce labels that he designed in 1985. The design group, which included Duffy, Anderson, and illustrator Lynn Schulte, countered the garish color and strident typography of mass-marketed grocery packaging of the time. They countered it with a use of subtle color, elegant typography, and woodcut look illustration. And to complete the package, the product was put in an old-style mason jar. Classico spaghetti sauce sales soared to 90 million within 2 years, with limited advertising. Because of the shelf appeal and the fact that the product inside the bottle was good, was the key factor. This label won a New York art director's gold medal. Companies that desired the vintage look to advertise products as being of good quality sought out Joe Duffy and Charles Spencer Anderson. They developed identity programs for various product lines, including Chaps, a Ralph Lauren clothing line, in 1987. In 1989, Charles Spencer Anderson left the Duffy Design Group and opened up his own design office. Among his first projects was a book design cover for the No Sex Handbook. It was a tongue-in-cheek publication by Warner Books. The illustrations were based on old clip art. The image was double printed, slightly off-registered, which was appropriately giving it a past-era look. Anderson's long-running campaign for the French paper company has borrowed the visual vocabulary of early commercial printing and incorporated it into witty pictorial compositions to sell paper to designers and the printing industry. The French paper company was one of the first innovators of recycled printing papers. The paper line ranged from ordinary brown craft paper to gray chipboard. Their papers have never been cheap, but have always been well regarded for their inventiveness by designers for over 2 decades. Anderson's approach is humorous as he visually quotes common advertising cliches, old comic books, pulls samples from Gothic commercial typography, French paper, and Halloween candy promotionals. While calling on non-design forms of the past, Anderson and his design staff work out their visual solutions through precisionist design. Over the years, much of the vintage advertising sampling has been replaced by original, still-life photographs and conceptual illustration, which allows Anderson to communicate with various voices. Anderson uses a consistent formal vocabulary featuring a cliché of repeatedly used images, typefaces, and dingbat, which signify both an attitude in pop visual culture. His spirit is part irony, history, and the down and dirty visual club of the 20th century. This is Charles Spencer Anderson's design company's cover for the CSA Archive Catalog of Stock Art in 1995. The heaviness of the bold black type and illustration are tempered by an underlay of abstract shapes in 3 warm colors. Within the expanding possibilities of post-industrial society, a design firm becomes creator, packager, and marketer of manufactured goods. Charles Spencer Anderson has parlayed his design style into a wildly successful commercial business. He sells his posters, clip art, and much more through his CSA website. I have provided a link to the CSA.com on this week's folder. Other vernacular designers that we aren't able to cover in this chapter but made significant contributions to the style are Art Chantry and more recently Haley Johnson, who designs for Blue Q. Arthur Samuel Wilbur Chantry II, known as Art Chantry, born April 9, 1954 in Seattle, Washington. He is a graphic designer often associated with applying the vernacular design vocabulary to the posters and album covers that he did for bands from the Pacific Northwest. Haley Johnson is a relatively young designer who has had her work featured in major design publications in recent years, including Communication Arts Magazine. Her design style calls on the cliché forms from the past, and one of her major clients is the company Blue Q. Boss Lady is just one of the Blue Q merchandise lines that Haley Johnson developed the illustration and branding for. Check out the Blue Q website for a complete look at the popularity of vernacular design that is being successfully marketed today.